Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
for all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
Right, Chris.
All right there. All right at the back. How the devil are you all? Welcome along to the first, it doesn't seem 5 minutes since we were doing these before, but the first of the January transfer window transfer shows. It's that time of year when we all do this. Because let's be honest with you, by the end of this transfer window, if we believe all the hype and the rumours and whatever we will end up with 24 left backs, but only a five-a-side team that we can put out because we'll be buying every defender going and selling every player that we've got signed to the books. That's what the transfer window is for Leicester City. Good evening, welcome along. And this is where, if you're watching us, you can watch us. And if you're catching up and listening on podcasts, thank you so much for listening. Here's where you can find.
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
Indeed. First of all, good evening to Jordan. Liverpool fan, big up, mate. How the devil are you? Can I just say with the comments, because of what's been happening just recently, I think a few channels are going down this line now. You can watch on whatever you want to watch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If you want to comment, and we do want your comments, but if you want to comment, you do have to get onto YouTube, find the channel, and just press subscribe. It will probably say in the when you try to post, it'll probably say you need to subscribe. It's just so that we can, we don't get the morons with the silly links and comments and what have you. Also, good evening to Ankit. How the devil are you, sir? FA Cup weekend. How did you do last season, Ankit? I've forgotten. I haven't.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
And here we go with Jim White of Leicester Till I Die TV. It's Brad. Good evening, Brad.
Good evening, Chris. I'm not even going to attempt the voice of Jim White there. It's just not going to happen. I don't want to get us on 0 views within the first 5 minutes. Thanks.
Actually, he's resigned from Sky now, hasn't he?
Has he? I'll miss. Well, we'll get to play transfer bingo this week. This window, then, will I? So
no. Almighty Blues Anki says, I knew it was coming. Got to respect the FA Cup champions after all. Those, so I give it to you. Well, you did win the Champions League a few weeks after, so big up for you. Jordan, Ankit, I send you my Caribou Cup reaction. Oh, right, okay, they're having a conversation with themselves. Ankit says, big up, Brad.
Big up, matey.
Yeah. And before we start on the transfer news, it's been announced today the most valuable Premier League clubs by their squad value. You can guess who number one is, you know. They must have some dodos in there because they've got one player that's worth $1 billion, but apparently their whole squad is only worth 892.89 million. But Leicester seventh, where they got the seventh. Believe it or not, we don't make it in the top 6 of this either, with 464.22 million squad worth. Benkovic might be 4 million of that. I don't know. Everton apparently below us, and then 390.38 million. How that's working for you? I don't think it is it? It's not everything.
Biggest that was 1.6 million on Damari Gray, but I won't say anything about that.
No. Oh, he's a wonderful signing when he scores a goal, mate. We should have kept him.
Yeah,
good evening, Niall. Yeah, good evening, Niall. For those of you that are watching, do not adjust your sets. We are playing home and away tonight. I'm playing away, which I don't know what that says about me, but we've coordinated the shirts. You think that these programs are just thrown together, but there's Brad and me for an hour this afternoon talking wardrobe and what we should wear. But we've come up with this. I'm just
too lazy, and I'll just put this top on again. That's what really happened, folks. Sorry, that was a spoiler alert. I should have announced the time clock before the spoiler came up.
Hey, mate. You get a new City shirt for Christmas. You're going to wear it as much as possible. I would be disappointed if you didn't, sir. And I must admit,
that's very true. That is very true.
I haven't got that one. It's looking rather nice.
Yeah, Julian Watts used to wear it. It's that long ago.
Yeah,
it's actually it's from that season.
It is. It is. It is. It fits you better than it used to fit him. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I talked something about Captain Junior said his was a tight fit. I was thinking that's more of the lenient 90s style of fitness regimes than it is to do with the tight fit, Julian.
No, I think there's one picture of him when he's walking out for the playoff final, I think it is, and he's not got this shirt. I think he's got the shirt on before this, with the collar and everything, and it looks about 3 sizes too big for him.
They all did, to be fair. They all did. I mean, this is probably the size that you saw Heskey running around, and it always looked baggy on him. And I think if I remember, I don't know if it was just the poorness of the VCR, but I'm pretty sure all the players had some issue with the collar here. And they actually had like a little slit in it. They actually tore it.
Yes, I think they did. Yes,
that was in the vault. That was in the vault.
Like that. Talking of Julian Watts, if you haven't watched this, it was a great laugh. We put it out Monday night. It was the first show of the new year, and it is so well worth a watch. And it was a big fat quiz. Which was Julian Watts took on Steve Lynix. 2 ex-players went on a history of football from last season, 2021. Not going to tell you who won. You've got to watch it. But also, one of those players recently discovered was an expert on women's football. Want to find out which one it is? Go on to Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube. It is still there. And I have a new thing, Brad, here, that if we have a rumour that is absolutely stupid, you can ask me to play this.
You know what, mate? I think we should have that. I think what we should have is, I think what we should do, Chris, I think we should, if we're going to do this for all the transfer windows for the coming futures, I think we should have a counter in the top right-hand corner. We should do a counter of stupid to believable. Maybe score on that one and see which one comes out on top, because this could get interesting over the next few weeks.
You give me a score as we go through them, mate. Give me a score. But having said that, I don't need an excuse. I just love this. I don't need an excuse to play it.
You can just play that with the score. It's fine. We can have that.
I'll play that for 60 minutes on YouTube. Right. So we are going to jump in with the transfer window. So let me have a look that this should work. He says, fingers crossed. Here we go. So We're going to look at the transfer show. So we're going to have a look first of all at the ins. Then we'll look at the outs, and if we've got time at the end, we'll look at the shake it all about. Boom, boom. The Who, sorry. New year, jokes are still as bad as last year. But this was on the news today. Leicester City for development loans manager Guy Branson has suggested the club will be watching the upcoming Africa Cup of Nations for potential signings. Arsenal players such as Mohamed Elneny are very good. During the upcoming Africa Cup of Nations, we'll be watching African footballers, especially Egyptian ones, he said. Now, I have nothing against this, but because of when the African Cup of Nations is played, do we not get to a point where we have too many African players? And I mean, that sounds awful, and I don't mean it in a racist or anything like that, but you know, the more African players we get that are good, the more we're going to lose in January's.
Yeah, that's always a way to look at it, that you'd lose more players going into it, but every squad has to deal with it. I mean, you know my opinions on internationals in general.
Yeah.
The only time, the actual main reason I've actually started to follow these other tournaments more, like the African Cup of Nations, keep a more of a firmer eye on them than I do when they're normally on, is because at least football goes on with, they kind of get on with it. I've always insisted that internationals would actually get a lot more attention in a weird sort of way if you went, oh great, get to see England on the Thursday play against Italy, and I get, well, maybe not Italy, that's bad memories, but anyway, England versus Slovenia, because that's what they always get in a group game, no matter what, on a Thursday, and then I've got to see Leicester take on Man City. That's going to be interesting because, like you said, something that Leicester have been very good at, thankfully, is you then get to see, instead of maybe Chelsea and the 3,000 loanees, we get Chelsea and actually we need a few of you to 20 of you to stay back, because the international break allows you to get time on the pitch and prove yourself. For me, it wouldn't bother me if we're signing someone of good enough talent. We've done it before. There's a reason we've got so many out, mate. We've happily done it.
Like I say, that's my worry. We've got 3 out. Daka, if his team had qualified, and can just sort of see us.
Well, Daka put himself out there, didn't he? Daka put himself out as well. Like the one thing we had going for us, and Daka still put himself out. But again, I've always put the quality in reference to the clubs. I mean, Man City and Man United sides alone, or however these bigger clubs have been affected, the fans come out and they whinge and they moan, saying, "Oh, but we'd lose this player if you did that." Well, guess what? However as high esteem you hold as quality as player X, Leicester hold their own version who they're missing, player X, in the same bracket. You know what I mean? We lose Ndidi. They're going, "Oh, we lose so and so." It's like, well, we've lost Ndidi, who's a midfielder. Oh, well, we've got that. Well, we've lost Amati. So you see what I mean? Every club's affected. It doesn't matter if the actual quality of the player. It matters the importance to the club. So if we're getting that sort of caliber that's able to get called up for his nations, I'm all for it, mate. Fair play. It means we're getting a good, potentially good player on our books.
And if you're honest with you, these African players are some of the best in the world now, and we have got them. My worry, I would just like it spread out a little bit more. So I think with the European players, of course, we don't have the problem as such, because the competition's in the summer, unless you're the Bent FA and you decide to hold it in the middle of the season, allegedly. But you know what you mean. But anyway, let's get on. So we might see a few more coming back in, and we'll come on to that player in a second. Here's the first one that's been linked with us. This was in the mail. And you know what I'm like with these names, so you're going to enjoy this. Dennis Zakaria. There were a number of Premier League clubs who have expressed an interest in Borussia Mönchengladbach's Switzerland midfielder, Dennis Zakaria. 25-year-old is also being targeted by Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa and Everton. Anything in this one, do you think, Brad?
Yeah. First of all, I think his name's pronounced Zakaria. Just to be an arse, mate.
Mine was the crossway, mate.
You could be right.
He's up there with Bertrand, don't you know?
Oh yeah, well, actually no. Listen to me, guys, because he thought Bertrand was French, and it was Bertrand. But there you go.
You know my pronunciations are rubbish, mate.
It's brilliant. It's great to watch you squirm as you go to say them. But no, I actually don't think there's anything in this. I did a bit of extra research about him. Pretty much what you've got up on screen as well is what it is. The position he plays. My biggest concern is I just don't see it being a logical move. The position he predominantly plays, he's taking up the Ndidi role. And you can say what you like about Ndidi not being a true out-and-out central defensive midfielder if you think that, or whatever, or you might say he's doing a job as a holding midfielder. That's what he's doing. I know he's actually infamously playing centre-back at the moment. Well, he's not anymore because he's away with his nation, but he's been playing centre-back for us this season. We've just got too much. We're loaning out a Dennis Pratt who could potentially play there. I know it's not his strength in numbers, but the fact that we're loaning out a midfielder, we've got Samore who plays in Ndidi's position, and if you're telling me he can't, look at what they did against Liverpool when Samore filled in for Ndidi, so that's clearly a spot he plays. We've got Chowdhury, who just when he looks like he's out of the mix, gets himself back in it again. I believe him in some, and Zakaria are not too distant in the age gap, so we've already got our third choice to fill in for Ndidi. I just don't see why we'd need to spend 25 plus million on a 25-year-old when we've got someone will have to confirm Chowdhury's age for me, but he's got to be either 25 or younger, Chowdhury. So we've already got someone doing that job.
Yeah.
But why we would go out as a club and pay 25 million for it when we've seen a certain forced transfer in the summer costing us potentially making a certain signing that we'll get onto a permanent one and having to be a loan move. I don't think it's a move that Leicester just need to look at. The position he plays for Gladbach just tells me that we've got that depth covered. He doesn't offer too much in versatile from that role either. Nothing really stands out. So for me, it's a bit weird to see a name like that linked with us when it's not a position we're actually lacking in depth and quality.
Totally. And I've got to be honest with you. I mean, yes, in fairness, we're probably going to be losing Mendy in the summer, but although he's not been linked with anybody at the moment, but I think we could well. He wants out. I don't think that's any secret.
And he's fourth choice, and the fact that I've just forgot him says it all. He was fourth choice. Is he going to come in? We're going to spend 25 million on a fourth choice. No,
yes,
no, another further point.
Yeah, and Hamza. I've never been sure about Hamza. I always think there's a red card in him, but now's the time for him to shine, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, definitely, and it'd be almost anti-Leicester to sort of bring in someone to essentially become the third choice, or for a temporary time, the second choice, I guess. But it'd be anti-Leicester to go and push out one of their own developed products to put him further down the pecking order. So, unless you're talking, someone's going to tell me this guy's an absolute world beater and makes Ndidi look like, I don't know, bloody Steve McManaman as a centre back. I don't know, which would be completely odd and useless. Then I don't see a reason to go for him. Maybe someone who's more avid follower of the German league will tell me differently. But looking at the basis, his age and everything, the price that they're asking, it just doesn't sound like a player who's immediately going to challenge Ndidi and Samore. And we've got, like you said, we've got Chowdhury, and even for what's left of his contract, Mendy, if needs must. You don't spend 25 million on it.
I mean, I was watching Sky Sports earlier. I was watching it online, and they do the transfer roundup, and they said no deals imminent at Leicester City. They do need a centre back, but only on loan. And I'm guessing you've got to think that our owners have probably been really badly hit by COVID more than the oil, the owners that are interested in oil, because of the fact that they're into sort of duty free in the holiday sector. So we don't think we've got the money there. Like you said, we'll come on to him later, but there's a loan signing we may need to find money to purchase. And Again, another headline, and it's in the Mercury, and you take this with a pinch of salt if you want to. Leicester City sent a strong astronomical transfer warning as stability of club questioned. I won't say which player, because you may well again be talking about him later, but it's £40 million, and you know it was a German newspaper, and it was saying, you know, at the moment Leicester are as good sometimes as they are bad. And have we got the finance to support this? So I think it's going to be a very quiet transfer window overall.
Yeah. I think if we're going to score this one, this transfer for me makes absolutely no sense, and it's just getting a bin.
It is.
I think I think unfortunately Leicester are becoming a side that's easy to market a transfer out of nowhere. They've looked at Leicester. All you have to do to be a journalist and put a rumour together for Leicester, it seems to be, is go, where's the good positions? Where's the injuries? Let's scan the transfer market for about a £20 million player and link him with Leicester, because they like to pay good money, decent, cheap money for a talent that potentially, you know, could become world class.
Yeah,
I think, you know, because we've done such shrewd business, I think it's easier for a media to print. They just go, who's valued at about 20 million in the market? Who's still young enough? Who's fairly young because they have a youthful squad throughout, and who's not really caught the eye yet, but potentially could do if he went there. This guy, okay, we'll link him with Leicester, which is a great credit to Leicester, but it might get you a few stinkers along the way.
And we've had a few of those, haven't we? I mean, Terry makes the point there. Hi, Terry. How are you? Happy New Year. All I know is Alex Ferguson refused to buy in the January window. He reckons the season's over before the player gets accustomed. We do know, and it is a good point that Terry makes there, but we do know that any players you get in the January window, they're normally not players that you want. They are players that you need, if you like, you know. And we know, for example, when Newcastle go knocking on the door of whatever club they want, that they'll be adding a couple of million on, because they know it's Newcastle, they know they've got it, and I've just knocked my thing over, and they know that they're desperate to get the players in. Do you think, though, sometimes it is kind of like fan pressure, or it's a window, we've got to sign somebody? If we don't sign somebody, it's a bad window, and then that's the blame for the rest of the season.
I think the problem is, as well, is sometimes when you say and sit here and go, we have to sign a centre-back, I think it's just a case of that's not the correct statement we're actually meaning as fans. What we're meaning is we are low on centre-backs. We need to bring in a centre-back. But if we look at our centre-back option the way the club probably are, unless it's a very, you know, up-and-coming youngster that isn't already in our youth academy, I know we've got a few players on the list that we'll get to, but unless it's someone like that you're very, very, you've been watching for a long time and you're saying this kid is worth spending what little money we've got in this transfer window on him, then you actually look at Leicester's situation. How are you going to go into a market very limited? Prices are inflated for obvious reasons. Unless it's someone who's handed in a transfer request, so you're literally going for someone who sits and rots away on the bench, and they're not going to really bother about his price. But the majority of the price is inflated. A very tight window to do it within. And Leicester realistically will look at this, you know, because we're thinking we've got no defenders because they're on duty, they're injured, whatever. But realistically, what Leicester City are doing is going, right, Benkovic, meh. Okay, I'm just saying that for the purpose of he's not in the squad. I don't mean any different. I'm just trying to sum it up how they look of it. Benkovic can't really do it. Don't really want to call him in. He's not good enough. That's what the sign we're getting about Benkovic. Then they go, okay, Soyuncu, Evans, Fofana, Amate, he's quite good at doing that. We've got these other players here that I've got a lot more trust in right now. Realistically, you're asking somebody to potentially make a big move and pay the bucks. You've got so much to take into consideration. Leicester are only buying a player who's got then probably 6 weeks to make his mark, otherwise he's going to find himself down the pecking order. So not only have you got to convince that player, But you've got to convince that club to give him you at a decent price. That if he does drop down that pecking order, you can go and go, oh well, we're 25 million on somebody that's going to come on every so often. Ain't too bad, and you're hard pressed to do that.
I think Sky summed it up when they said we're going to get somebody on loan, because whoever you sign, let's say we go and get Tarkowski, for example, when he comes back, you've got so many defenders that you're not going to please them all. And hang on 1 second, I just made it. Yeah, can I speak to Ryan Bennett, please? I just want to see if he's available. Thank you. Yeah, can you ask him to ring me back? Yeah, it's left till I die. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I believe he might still be available, so we can get Ryan Bennett in. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. So, talking about defenders, Foxes are interested in signing Ghanaian defender Abdul Mumin. Have I got that one right then, Brad? From Portuguese side, you can read it there. Although recent reports suggest Newcastle may be ahead of them in this 25-year-old.
Again, I just want to put this one straight in the bin, and it's got nothing against the guy and what he's potentially doing. This is the window again where this just further proves that they've gone 20 to 25-year-old centre back in. We'll link in with Leicester because we haven't got many rooms for them. He's half decent. He could do a job. They'll probably pay 25 million for it. That's what. Because again, this is exactly like the first transfer. Yes, we're injured at the moment, but are we really going to spend whatever it may cost? Because we haven't really seen a price. And to be honest with you, you look at his league experience at 25, 2 stints. Well, no, 1 stint in Denmark where he started. He's had 3 club stints, and I'm pretty sure the other club was in Denmark, and now he's in Portugal. He's 25 years of age. It ain't exactly the glitteriness of CVs. No disrespect to him as a club. I'm sure he's done wonders for the league that he's been playing in, and I'm not trying to discredit it too much. But if you're looking at a 25-year-old centre-back, you're not looking to be having to double-check the leagues that the countries they've been playing in. He's 25. We don't need a 25-year-old, again, unless he's going to take the world by storm. Like, people might turn around and say, yeah, but your players, Brad, that Leicester have done over the years, they're also only 20, 21 at a push. You know, we didn't sign for Farners, a 27-year-old who hadn't barely played. I don't think we would do. But for Farners, a 20-year-old, you're damn right we try and get that calibre in a scouting. And again, it's competition for places. If he was 20, I'd be like, okay, fair dues. Sorenchu's been looking a bit shaky. He might put pressure on there. Evans is going to be around forever. But we've still got more than enough in there. And for the options of what for A, what's coming up for us to look at, and B, for other options out there, this is just a plain bland Google search to link someone who could be a talent. I have to admit, I had to watch a few things of him to see what he's been like. And look, he might suit a Newcastle side, but we are not in that need. We're not in need for a first-team centre-back, not for the longevity that he's going to want to come in and get. He's not going to want to leave.
When we're talking centre-backs, I think, to me, the whole thing is, if everybody was fit, even with the play, that have gone off to the to AFCON, if everybody was fit and available, we wouldn't even be talking about a centre-back.
Exactly. And people, and this is why I think I agree more with you on the loan move. I think unless it's someone that's going to absolutely blow it out of the water, and someone insists that we spend the money on it, you're not going to see a centre-back be a permanent signing unless it's a very, very cheap one.
Yeah. Terry says there, it's interesting when Leicester say they have no money, players are bought in on the drip. As Arsenal, it's more a case of buying against future potential increase in income. This one, we were linked with him a while ago. It's the Sun, you take it with a pinch of salt, but they are still owned by the same people that own Sky Sports. So if you believe Sky Sports, we don't believe the Sun, wobble your head. But Newcastle are desperate to make Rangers striker Alfredo their first major signing this month, according to reports. However, Rafa Benitez, Everton, and Brendan Rodgers, Leicester City, are also interested in recruiting him. Do we need another striker? We've got 3 when the Africa Cup of Nations isn't on. Yes, at the moment, again, we've got nobody because Inacho's off in Africa, Vardy and Daka injured. but do we really need another striker?
No, again, this is a 3 out of 3, mate. Get it in the bin. This is a 3-0 to get in the bin for transfer rumours. Because this isn't just that. This is, what would really get the goat up? What would maybe give, what can we do that could maybe just set up another article? Because this sounds like WWE script writing. What they're trying to do is make Rodgers the face again for Celtic fans, where they go, and really annoy them by bringing him along and really rubbing Rangers up the wrong way by taking their best player and have both teams in Scotland hating. Because honestly, I just don't understand this. I'm not doubting his credit. And again, if he goes to a Villa with Gerrard, if he goes to a Newcastle, maybe even a Brighton, I'm not sure his glamorous red card record is exactly what Mr. Potter would take at the House of, the House of Brighton. But that sort of club is probably needing a striker. I'm sure he could come to the Premiership and do a good job. But again, it's looking at the perspective and not the situation. Again, all they've done is gone, Leicester strikers, injured, away. They need a striker, let's link it. Because he's always been linked away with a move. He's always been
linked. The point there, he has been in the past, Mr. Red Card. And if he was that good, if he was that good, would not Villa be in for him? Because with his ex-boss, and they've not been sort of linked at all. So maybe it's another Benkovic type of thing. You can be good in Scotland, but
it's just poor press work. That's exactly what that is.
Oh, we know that.
They know we haven't got any strikers, but they're not looking at the picture of Leicester. Don't necessarily need any strikers. They're just for a couple of weeks hitting the panic button. We've got Harvey Barnes. For Christ's sake, we've seen him play with her too. It's not been pretty or successful, but Leicester would rather do that or play an under-23 than go out again and spend 20-odd million on him. And at the end of the day, I know he's
back because he's on a full year loan. Whether George Hurst is the same or not, because I think he's knocking 1 or 2 in the lower divisions. But now this next one, Brad, I actually think this is a sensible link, if you can have one, if you like. And this is Calvin Ramsey, because he's 18 years old, so he could be one for the future. He's attracting from outside the UK, Eintracht Frankfurt and Bologna. And he's obviously at Aberdeen, as it says there. And we watched him allegedly on Boxing Day in the 2-1 win. Again, to me, now that's sensible because he's 18. And like you said, Evans is getting on a little bit. So we're going to be one down.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mentioned him earlier in my little sketch when I was going through the Leicester defence. Benkovic is probably, I'd be absolutely baffled if that guy's not out the door come the summer. I'm assuming that's when his contract ends, if not whenever his contract comes to an end. And this is somebody who's actually looked at somebody. There's obviously, and no smoke without fire. It's very strange to kind of be very specific that somebody from Leicester was there watching. That tells you that Leicester are probably genuinely looking at him. They're obviously genuine interest. And this is the sort of player that I would say that the board would look at and go, he's 18, Aberdeen won, sorry, it is Aberdeen, isn't it? Well, I keep going with that one.
Yeah, it is Aberdeen,
Aberdeen, I mean, there was a player that I think Everton signed, funny enough, which kind of states what they're obviously backing Rafa because they've let him do 2 bits of business. I think there was a player from Rangers went to Everton for 11 million, and Aberdeen have been told by ex-players, as they do come out and say these things, that Aberdeen should hold out for the same similar sort of price. We know that means that we could probably shake this out for about 8 or 9 million, let's be honest, if that's the case. And in terms of replacing one for the other, you're putting Benkovic out the team, letting him go, move on and talk to other clubs. If his contract's at that point, I don't know. Again, someone can confirm that for me. And we're bringing in an 18-year-old that will work with the first team, probably for the majority of this season, settling with the under-23s, just to get a bit of game time more than anything. And it's one that you go, look, if they're saying, if they're, because we know the funding difference is astronomical between England in most divisions, let alone just in the Premier League, than it is Scottish. But if they're saying that Everton paid 11 million from a guy from Rangers and somebody very highly thought after with his opinions in Scotland's come out and said that Aberdeen should be asking for the same sort of fee, I think if you can shape them for 8 million, it's a very good deal. One that doesn't have too much collateral if it doesn't turn out that he's all jazz, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it definitely holds more credit for me, and I would put this in there on the credibility shelf.
yes.
The
funny thing is, I have to pinch myself sometimes when I'm thinking, like, we are talking, and this is Leicester City we're talking about, that we're saying, oh, yeah, 11 million, 8 or 9 million, that's good value, you know. And we used to sort of, we had orgasm when we signed Mark Draper, our first £1 million player. You know, how times have changed. A point here, and I'm just going to go and hide under my table now, because Andrew says this: why do we need a striker? We've got Perez.
I've never liked this, Andrew. If I get mods in the chat, come on, Paul, can't have this silliness. He's obviously still drunk, delirious from New Year. No, do you think I should? Do you think I should block him? Do you think? No, can't have that.
I'm joking, Andrew. I'm joking. The next one,
coming for him.
The next one. Well, to be honest with you, I'm getting bored with it a little bit, because every window it comes round, and here we go, Mr. Coutinho. Leicester City are reportedly one of 4 Premier League clubs to speak to Coutinho representatives as the attacking midfielder looks for a way out of Barcelona. Gerrard's Villa and Conte's Spurs also linked. Conte has dismissed the interest, and Newcastle apparently are the other one, but Coutinho doesn't want to go and play in a relegation battle. So maybe money doesn't mean everything. How many more? I mean, if he's coming, let's go and get him. But to me, Brad, when I look at this, I'd love to have him. Don't get me wrong. I don't think anybody's silly enough to say, no, we wouldn't take him. The guy is a talent. We saw that at Liverpool. And if Brendan can get that back out of him, my worry is we don't have all those sort of big fishes in our little pool, do we? And I'm just worried that it will break up that Band of Brothers sort of effect that we have at the club.
Oh, sorry, Chris. If you're wondering what I was just doing now, I was having a nice little nap because I'm sick of this rumour. I'm absolutely sick. I'm bored to death of it. Is there any more like ex-Liverpool players that we can get linked with? Because I'm sick of the same one. Again, it's lazy journalism. They picked a high caliber player that he worked with that's still playing, that it's clearly wanting out of his club. Let's link him to his ex-manager. Oh, I know who's the one that's really standing out in the press. Brendan Rodgers at Leicester. So guess what we'll do for the next however years until he finally moves club? We'll link him with him. Don't want him at our club. Look, he's a talent. He can light the world, but he's got all the attitude in most aspects as Alexis Sanchez post-Arsenal and the last couple of season and a half at Arsenal, in my opinion. It just doesn't seem like he's that too eager to get himself out there, because I think if you were that desperate to leave a club, you'd say pay me not even close to what he's getting paid at Barcelona, because that's a stumbling block to start off with. He's never going to get through the door at Leicester.
325,000 a week.
We ain't paying that a week. There's not a chance. I mean, he'd have to put that down to 100 grand a week. First of all, he ain't going to do that. Second of all, if he was that desperate, if Bleeding Bolton Wanderers offered him 110 grand a week, he should be wanting to take it. If he's that desperate to get out of Barcelona, he'd have been gone by now.
I don't know whether he's that desperate or Barcelona are that desperate, and the fact that they want him off the wage books.
Well, he isn't obviously desperate enough to go out there and try and prove Barcelona and the critiques in the boardroom wrong, is he? Because he's just not. No. I mean, he had that one.
Then like we said, we're questioning his attitude. And quite rightly, you know, if he doesn't want to go out there and play for a move, he's happy to sit there on his 325 grand. That is not a sort of player we want.
Honestly, I'd rather get linked with Luis Suarez than this guy, because I'm sick of it every window. I'm sick of it every window. This is the biggest ridiculous. In fact, every bad transfer that I don't think is plausible right now is getting called a Philip Coutinho.
Yeah. Coutinho would be happy to play for Villa.
Glory
as
was.
well, both teams.
Well, good for them.
According to Sky Sports, and of course you've got the thing is you've got again. I suppose you've got the links with Gerrard, with Brendan. You've now got the links with Gerrard as well.
Oh,
But
I mean, there is that.
I think this deserves our first.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's definitely a penguin slapping around the back of the head if you printed that off. That's why they must have it saved in the file. They must have it saved in the file under desperate for transfers. Dink, open, Coutinho to Leicester. Look, if it happens, I'll be the first one to get out a bowl and lock it full of humble pie. But
yeah,
I'm just
I mean, as I say, any club would want him. They'd be silly not to want him. But it's the wages, it's his attitude, you know, and that's what we've got to hear. Just come up on Sky News. It looks like Cantwell is due to leave Norwich. Newcastle and one other Premier League club have sounded out the possibility of being interested in the midfielder, Todd Cantwell. It doesn't say who the other club are. Again, not a position we really need, is it?
No, it's not. It's just not worthy of doing.
Yeah. Right. So that's my out. So we're going to come to yours at the end. But, sorry, Inns, I should say. The only ones we know... Almost certainly, I think Mendy's going to go. Benkovic, if we get a decent offer, he's just not going to work, is he? For whatever it is, even when we're short of defenders and he can't get in that team, that says how little faith Brendan has in him. And in fairness, he's the manager, and we've got to go for it. Andrew says here, Coutinho is just another Gareth Bale. Well, he'd be all right with the training thing and the golf course, isn't it? But the one that we've heavily been linked with going, when I say heavily, that's probably a thing. It's in the Mercury. Chelsea are interested in taking Fox's defender Ryan Bertrand back to Stamford Bridge to address their current injury issues. The 32-year-old has featured 11 times for Leicester since arriving on a free transfer in the summer, but just 4 times in the Premier League. I am so disappointed with this signing. I thought he was a great signing when we got him. We'd lost Christian Fuchs. We'd lost Wes Morgan. So we'd lost that sort of experience. He had that. And in the opening games, the pre-season games, I thought he looked brilliant. I thought, great. This is going to be a good signing for us. It hasn't been. But we can't afford to let him go, can we?
No, it'd just be daft to let him go. I don't understand. It's not like he sat. It's not like the bottom saying he hasn't played a kicked ball for Leicester and hasn't even featured for the under-23s or something like that. He's always found his opportunities. He's always. I mean, he was a free agent. He knew what he was asking for and what he was being told he'd get and what he got. He's probably got more time than he was expected due to some injuries. So, what's he going to do? Sit on Chelsea's bench after a game because someone will be back and then there'll be no injuries, or he'll have an okay-ish game, but then he'll get injured. At the end of the day, he's here at Leicester to do exactly what he's been doing, and because of injuries and because of the severity of our situation before, he's doing exactly and playing exactly as much as I'd expected from him. It's not been the greatest, but it's certainly no reason to see him go less than 6 months into his time here.
Agreed totally. And as I said, I think our situations at the moment, and I mean, if it's a silly offer, of course, we didn't spend anything on him, but we just can't afford to be letting any defenders go unless they're called Benkovic, of course.
Yeah.
We now come on to you. And that's why we've got all the question marks there, Brad. Those are the ones that I picked out from the main sources, if you like. But I'm sure you've said, well, I know you've got a few that I've not mentioned. So this is Brad's bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the area of strength where I realistically think Leicester need to actually delve into the market, probably on a more permanent basis. There was there's two areas of strength that I think we genuinely need to add numbers to. Take injuries aside, take everything aside, and actually break down the Leicester squad. Realistically, what we could use is a right back. We need cover for that right back. Yes, Amati can do it, but ironically, I think he's actually done a better job as a centre back than he does as a right back. Castagne, obviously, and Ricardo have been interchanging between there, but I think you need to have more secure cover because, with these guys and their injuries and having players out or away on duties or whatever, we need to make sure we've got a bit more stable cover. So I haven't really given players much for because it's so difficult to do. But I someone who can play down that side. Maybe you need to also make sure they're more of a defensive-minded right back and not a right wing back as such. Because I think you out and out play Castagne there, and Ricardo tends to be a bit more advanced. It's nice to get that interchangeable right back. I think we need. Look, I love Mark Albrighton, and the fact that Lootman can also seemingly play on that side as well as the right is a bit advantageous. But as much as I like Mr. Reliable, Mr. Fox, Mr. Kevin, as Vardy likes to shout at him, I think we need a more sturdier left winger. So I say, I'll get there in the end, Chris. Get there.
Yeah.
The left winger position, which may look at people going, well, why have you just shot down Coutinho? Because it's ridiculous. It's never going to happen. The money's ridiculous. We won't pay his wage. But my point is, on the left wing, looking for somebody that maybe you could put under the Harvey Barnes and maybe, you could have somebody like Albright and them take over that role like Fuchs did with Thomas and just take him under his wing and get someone young, vibrant that's going to push Harvey Barnes so we can see them scrapping for that position. And maybe someone who's a bit interchangeable because right wing is obviously another step forward, most notably send Lootman back, pay the money, bring him in permanently because I really do like Lootman. I think he's showing an extra class of quality, the fact that he can do it on both sides. And then I kind of did a delve through and then a position that I picked that I think would be somewhere we need to strengthen, but not until the summer. And it's quite interesting that there's a rumour about it already. And I'm going to butcher his name. I know it's Charles de Ketelaersen. I want to say that's how you pronounce it. I'm probably butchering
Oh, you
his
better
last
get
name.
this pronunciation right after you pulled me up earlier, young man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, without seeing his name on the screen, I can't see it to pronounce it. But I think it's it's Charles de Ketelaersen or Leon. So apologies without having it googled up to try and sound it out. But he's 20-year-old.
Kettler. Yeah, I see what you mean. He was the one that when I mentioned before, about we're being in a stable, unstable club. And when that was the guy that the Mercury were linking him with. Yeah.
No, again, probably not the most credible of sources, but he's 20 years old. And people might say in the comments right now, Brad, you just butchered a couple of signings because they played centre-back and blah-de-blah, and we don't that. And you're thinking Tillemans, Madison, Ndidi Samora. How can you say you want us to bring in a centre mid? Well, this one actually does make perfect sense, but it all depends. And I think there's a reason they're saying it's a summer move. Maybe sparks that Leicester are already eyeing up their next stage for potentially Tillemans going. I think we know that Tillemans is very happy here. He's clearly showing the effort. We saw, I already said it, I think it was on Maisie's channel yesterday. You don't see a guy who's got just over 12 months left in his contract celebrating winning in a corner in a gritty 1-0 win against Liverpool if he's not happy. But I think we all know that we're holding our breath, hoping Leicester can get it together. And if we break into the top four in a late charge, maybe we can convince Tillemans to sign a couple of years extra to stay around for a bit. But if he's 20 years of age, I looked at his record, it's fairly good. He's played at all levels for Belgium. He played in the national the Nations League as well at the first team level. He's got a few goals. Yeah, I think, you know, you're looking at Tillemans, KDH, Maddison, you know, and then you think if we lose one of them, we get this. I'm going to call him Charles. Put Charles in there. Charles in there. KDH, Maddison. It doesn't feel too bad if he's as good as what he's doing. He's played a lot for Club Brugge. He's exciting. He's played a lot of games considering he's 20. He's obviously got European experience being at Bruges this season. I believe they even got out their group. So he's going to gain more. This is one I wouldn't mind if we made it earlier, but I see why the
question, though, Brad, if I can. So just a quick question. What's he called again?
Charles.
No. What's his full name again? Because I'm getting confused.
His name is, again, and I'm sorry because I'd love to be able to see it. I should have kept it up and to pronounce it. His name
I'm winding you up, mate. I'm doing a Mrs. Brown. I'm doing a Mrs. Brown.
I know you are, and that's nice. Charles Ketelarian, that's what I'm going to pronounce it as. Ketelarian. There you go.
You know me, mate. I can't argue with you at all. You know. The other thing I'm going to, I mean, Scott said there, if we bring Charles in, does that mean Perez goes in the summer? I think Brad would like to say yes.
I mean, that might mean that.
No, you know, hold your arms down. Scott says here as well, Brad, wingers aren't the issue for me. Just swap Lookman and Barnes.
You need backup though, Scott. They're not the issue out and out. If we can find, you know, I'm talking about someone like that 18-year-old, that Ramsey, who would be suited for the reasons coming in. If we can get someone who's suited for a price, it's worth it. Not too cared about the right side. I'd be happy with Luton, but I just think strength and depth.
I think we have to be careful, like I say, that, you know, if you don't buy anybody, like Spurs did one season, and Poch got absolutely hung, drawn and quartered by it, but you've got to say, is there anybody out there that's affordable? And that's got to be the thing. We've got to think about money here that is affordable that we can bring in, right? It's fine saying all these names, left, right, centre, Cortina and all these, but are they affordable? And then you're going to say, well, what's going to happen when we've got all our players fit? And it will happen, hopefully, one day. I mean, that 18-year-old, he comes in. Johnny Evans, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised. We were talking about this the other day. If he doesn't retire at the end of the season. Now, I know he's got a bit on his contract left, but we can see he's spending more time on the sick table than he is on the pitch. Not his fault, but, you know, time catches up with you. And that 18-year-old could be brought in for, you know, next season, the season after. So we've got to be careful. We're not just buying for the sake of it in a window when you don't get the best deals.
And again, people have to remember the occasion we're buying for. Again, it's all well and good saying Burnley are in trouble. Burnley are down the bottom. We should pay Tarkowski. They're probably still going to demand 50 million for him. It doesn't just change just because we're in the bottom. He's got a contract with them, so they have no reason to sell. They're not relegated because it's, funny enough, it's January. So they're still a Premier League club. They're not going to want to get rid of the best players. We've seen, remember, well, funny enough, Evans, how did we get him? West Brom wouldn't sell him to Man City for 35. They went well stuffy then. I think that was probably when they actually signed Nathan Ake, but I don't know. I can't remember. They got someone else in, and they went down there to West Brom. We went, here's that release clause, and they went, all right, he's yours. You know, just people can say that it's the occasion. You're not spending 40, 50 million on Tarkowski, and he's going to go, I'll sit behind Soyuncu, Evans, Fofana, and Marty, and be sat on the bench with Daniel Marty as a centre back. No, I'm an England international. Regardless of your opinions of him or where he's playing, he's an England international. He's going to say, I need to be playing every week in my career. If you're spending 50 million, you need to be making that purchase for him to be in your starting 11. Don't become a Nathan Ake if a Man City coming for you. You know, if you're going to pay the big bucks for Tarkowski, he's going to want to make sure he's got a chance for Southgate to go, that strange fellow over there that keeps clearing the ball that doesn't play for Man U or Liverpool. What's his name? He's English. We'll have him. That seems how Southgate sometimes does his team selections, but I wouldn't say anything.
I mean, Scott says there, what about Berardi? But again, you know, if we sign Lookman, then we don't need Berardi, in my opinion. And we've got to think as well, you know, we've got a huge academy. We've got, you know, we've seen Luke Thomas come through. We've seen Kieran Dewsbury Hall come through. I think there's a thing on the Mercury site the other night about defenders who could solve our, you know, young defenders who could solve our defensive crisis. Unfortunately, one of them that they named was Benkovic, but the other two are sort of, you know, well, they've been sat on the, you know, there's been a couple sat on there, and I can't think of the names, Diante or somebody who was sat on the bench for a few games because we're so short. Let's give the youngsters, because like I say, we've got to be careful. We're not Man City, but then again, we're not Oldham Athletic. So
no, very good.
We can't just go out and it would be financially stupid because we're not going to get relegated. I don't care what you say. No matter how bad it gets this season, we are not one of the three worst teams in that division. So we're not going to go down. It's been a bad season, we know, with COVID illnesses and injuries. Let's get through this season, but let's not spend money and risk our future.
And we're certainly no Southampton that are going to suddenly sell every player that's worth a bit of money like it's a Boxing Day sale. We're not going to get to the summer and suddenly lose 5 or 6. I like the way Leicester do things. I have to, you know, I've always been a big advocate, and a lot of people say in a nice but envious tone, they've always said about Leicester is the two things you like about Leicester is A, their owners, which is obvious, you know, and B, the way they do things with the youth players. I mean, you just named them there. There was Chilwell came from it. Harvey Barnes has been developed for it. You know, Chowdhury's come through it. We've got Vontae Taylor. Campbell. Yes, we got Vontae from Arsenal, but we still incorporated a youth player, saw enough about him, and he has played for the first team. You know, we've got McAteer, who's came on and made his debut and got a 7 rating for 30 seconds of football. But still, we won't blame the BBC for that one. That's just Leicester fans enjoying seeing one of their own through. We've also had that Nielsen on the bench. So again, you may be hard pressed that Leicester doing business, but you shouldn't really moan when we between us have probably listed 8 youth team players that have come into our academy, developed within our academy, and featured for the first team. How one of them would become, whether we like him or not, or your opinions on the side, he's a Champions League and England international. And Ben Chilwell, he cost us nothing but wages, and we got 50 million for him.
Yeah.
So I'm more than happy with how things are for certain positions with our depth to give them a chance. Far better than I wanted.
We do want success, and we want success yesterday. And the more success you get, the more your expectations build. And we've said this with, you know, that I think that's what we're struggling with this season is the fact that we've done so well for the, you know, last couple of seasons. But every now and again, a season comes along that kicks you in the teeth, and throwing money at the problem does not help the overall structure of the club, you know. And I think I would be surprised. I mean, apart from those that we want to go, so maybe Mendy will go, or by the time he gets back, maybe the transfer window will be over. I can see Benkovic. He's you know, we should just forget about him. Whatever he's not in, and we should trust Brendan in that he doesn't think he's good enough to play for us. And I can just see, like you say, a loan deal coming in, because that's, you know, what we need. You know, now whether, you know, we raid Chelsea or we go abroad for that, who knows, you know, but you've got to think of the overall, and don't just say, well, you know, we've got to buy because it's the window. You know, it's
yeah, exactly. Like I said, from them list of players that you've put up for today to go through for this week, that 18-year-old is literally the only one that seems to have any smoke of real interest behind the actual room as well, because it's like I said, you're very bold or stupid to lie about saying it was a Leicester person watching that game they would have to have found that out that somebody was at Aberdeen watching from Leicester that game or something. You'd assume, because if not, it's clever but lazy journalism they've done there. But that one's got the most promise behind it, and it is someone I'd like to see come in, especially if we can get them in cheap.
Definitely, like you say, you've got to. I just think with us, with the cut, as much as I said before, as much as I'd love to see Coutinho in a Leicester shirt, all those years ago, I would have loved to have seen Johan Cruyff in a Leicester shirt. But you've got to think, we're listing all these players, but we don't know whether, you've got to think, will this fit into the style of play that Brendan wants? And we as fans, I think, sometimes think that's a good name. We should buy him, because we know him and he's a good name and what have you, but he may not be in sort of, in Brendan's plans of how he wants to play, and I'm sure he's got one, plan A and plan B and what have you. That player may not actually suit that style.
Yeah, and we've said that about players that have left this club. It's completely the same. I will give you the biggest example. One player, and in a way, I love to hear great things about him, but at the same time, I am sick of fans that get real smug for some weird reason about bringing it up. Andre Kramaric.
Yeah.
Right? Came to Leicester, didn't work out, didn't seem to get his way in the door. For whatever reason, I was a fan of him, wanted to see more of him.
Yeah.
Didn't. He was sold. Fair dues. But people always mention every time the strikers go on, oh, maybe we should have kept Kramaric. No. Right, because these people just, all they do is they go, Kramaric, oh, he scored 12 goals in 17 games, Kramaric, you should get him. No, German league football, completely different. Get it into your head. Take the perspective. The same words you do, that you need to do with the transfer window, is look at the perspective of what Leicester are buying for. Look at it when it comes to other players, because it's all well and good. Like you said, these players that we're linked with, I've never actually turned around and said, no good for the Premiership. I've just said they're not as urgent to Leicester as what we need, and there's no reason they can't go to a Premier League club and not be brilliant. Of course, Tina could go to Newcastle on 300 grand a week and score 14 goals and do a Tevez at West Ham and keep them up. I can say that because this is a Premier League channel and no Sheffield United fans are coming here to scorn me for making a Tevez remark. But my point still stands. That's brilliant. Newcastle need that. We don't really need that. We've got a very good silver fox in Jamie Vardy, and we've got a very young, inspiring Patson Daka and any outro. We're fine in that department to find the goals. I know people say Coutinho is a winger, Brad. He's an attacking nature. We've got Barnes, we've got Lukeman. We've got more than enough there for that. We don't need him. We certainly don't need a 300 grand a week player. I've seen two of them, both at Arsenal. I've seen three of them at Arsenal and see what they've done. Sanchez fell off a cliff. Ozil buggered off, and Aubameyang can't wait to get out. Yes. Don't pay your players 300 grand a week. Don't do it, kids.
It's
true.
No. It is exactly true. It is exactly true. As always, Brad, thank you for your insight and for popping on. No doubt we'll do this again next week. Let's see if we've signed anybody, see if we're linked with anybody. In the meantime, Saturday night is all right for fighting. 5:45-ish, 6 o'clock, post Watford FA Cup.
Yeah. Oh God. Now them injuries and all them missing players have just hit me all at once. And I'm thinking the FA Cup defence can't start by getting knocked out in the third round. It needs to get off the ground.
If we're going to get knocked out, I just hope there's a bigger surprise. But if there's a bit. Let's say Man United get knocked out, then we won't even make the news. Do you know what I mean? So, I think
unfortunately you'll find that we'll make the news no matter what. I mean, I think unless Manchester United were to put out a full strength 11 and get beat by Mansfield Town in the cup, I think you'd be still hard pressed of not getting told that the FA Cup champions are out, regardless, because they like to make a spectacle of it. And it's funny how when it's a team like Leicester that lifts it up, it's, oh, look at that, Leicester, worst champions ever, because they got knocked out by Watford in the third round. I can see it now. It'd be something ridiculous like that and be like, oh, well, we're the worst champions. We're not the first FA Cup defenders to get past the third round or something. But hey ho, let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's hope we're still the defending champions and still holding on to it for another round.
I tell you what, I don't know if anybody's not watched it yet. The first show was last night, and it's on the YouTube channel, Leicester Till I Die TV, and it was Foxes Across the Pond, and I was talking to an American fox and a Canadian fox, and they've obviously, and you understand, they've not been following Leicester as long as we have, and they were saying like, well, we always seem to shoot ourselves in the foot. I said, that's Leicester. Welcome to the world of supporting Leicester, But anyway, Brad, thank you so much for that, and I will see you Saturday night. Wear a white rose so I recognise you. And Happy New Year!
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah,
and just make sure for the next one, Chris. Get it 3-1. We'll do a score counter. We'll make that a thing. We'll make a thing out of the score counter to song.
We will. In fact, we can probably do one that goes across the bottom. But
get in the bin, United versus potential FC. That's what we got.
Yes. Okay. All the best, mate. And I'll see you on Saturday night. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Cheers, bud. Thanks to Brad there for that. He's bringing his knowledge to the channel. Sloppy seconds. Indeed. Sloppy seconds coming up in less than an hour. 9 o'clock. It is the big fat football quiz is back. We've got a top 12. This is team number 13 to come and have a go. And it's Newcastle. Why are the lads? Newcastle and John Sinclair. He'll be with us at 9 o'clock, pitting his wits against Craig's questions. Couple of shows, like I say, to catch up on. Please go back and have a look at this. It is quite a laugh. Julian versus Steve, ex-players battling it out. And as I say, the Foxes Across the Pond show as well. It's going to be a long 4 weeks till the end of the transfer window, methinks. But at least I get to play this. I make no apologies. Okay, I'll see you back at 9 o'clock. If you listen to it on the podcast, thank you so much. Nearly 15,500 plays in a year. Unbelievable, guys. Thank you for your support on the podcast if you're listening, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe. A lot of these shows are going to be subscription only eventually, so please subscribe to the channel. It's free of charge, and it shows great support. Take care. I will see you 52 minutes, I think it is, or ish. See you in a bit.
Thanks for watching Letter Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
That's all, folks.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.